There are two melodies associated with Away in a Manger, and I like them both, so I wrote one arrangement for each. You can learn one arrangement or the other, or you can learn them both and play them back to back. I'm assuming you can follow the tab or the standard notation from the beginning of this video well enough that you can learn the notes on your own. So rather than going note by note, we're going to go phrase by phrase, and we'll talk about fingerings and chord shapes and some other techniques that'll make this easier to play. If you do need some help reading tab, I've got a video on that topic. I'll leave a link in the description. Also in the description, you'll find information on ordering a PDF of this arrangement. Away in a Manger version 1 starts with a C chord and later on has an F chord in measure 3. You're going to want to pay attention to those chord forms because those chords will help you find good fingerings. We start off with a C chord with a melody note on the first string, 3rd fret, that G. And what you want to do here is keep as much of this chord ringing as possible while you are playing the melody on top. Then in the next measure we have an F chord with melody on string 2. Now there's a little tricky spot with that F chord. The F chord itself isn't too tricky, but the note right after the F chord, that open B, we don't want that bleeding into the next note. When you play the A on beat 3, you can also touch the 2nd string with your 2nd finger to stop the B from ringing. So here I play the A, but I also touch the 2nd string. And then we have a C chord with a melody note on string 3. In the next phrase we have just some melody and bass. I have it written to play this low B with finger 2 and that A with finger 3. You could use fingers 1 and 2 if you like, it doesn't matter that much. Whichever fingering you use, you want to make sure you're sustaining that low B. Sustain those bass notes while you play the melody. And then right here, we're just building a C chord one note at a time. So let all those notes ring right there. The 3rd phrase is identical to the 1st phrase. So we float the melody on top while we sustain the chord underneath. F chord, touch the 2nd string while you play the A, and then C chord with melody on string 3. The 4th phrase starts with more melody and bass alone, so sustain these low notes while you play the melody notes on top. Sustain the low B, sustain the low C, sustain the low G. And we have 2 open strings there, and then we have a C chord with melody on string 2. Version 2 of Away in the Manger is a little busier, so you want to make sure that you're bringing out the melody notes and not letting everything else overshadow that. And again, it's going to be very helpful to follow those chords. It's going to help you find good fingerings. We start off with the C chord, and really for the first little bit, you really only need to move your pinky. So all through that, the only finger I moved was my pinky when I played the D on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. Now here we're technically playing a C major 7 chord because we let go of our first finger. We're playing an open B there. And then be ready to move right up to the 5th position. That'll be your first finger at the 5th fret. And then your second finger is at the 6th fret on the 2nd string. And then you slide down for a D minor. And you could literally slide if you wanted to. That was maybe a little too much slide, but a little slide's okay there. Second phrase begins with melody and bass alone, so make sure you are sustaining those low bass notes. Sustain the low B here. Sustain the low C here. Now here we have a D minor chord, but it's probably different than the D minor chord you're used to playing, which looks like that. This one is fingered with fingers 2, 3, and 4, and it's just another way of playing a D minor chord. It may feel a little unusual just because that's a new chord shape, and I do recommend using fingers 2, 3, and 4 there, and not using your first finger, because at the end of that measure we go to a C chord, a C note. And so your first finger is right there for the C. Now one thing that'll make it easier to get to that new D minor chord is the note right before it. We have an open E on the first string, so that gives you half a beat to get to that D minor. I'll start in the measure before. Here's my open E. So I let go of everything and just prep for the that special D minor chord. And then we have a G chord with melody note on string 2. Third phrase is identical to the first phrase. So hold down the C. 5th fret and down to the D minor. And then the 4th phrase starts with some melody and bass alone. So as before, make sure you're sustaining those bass notes. Sustain the low B here. Sustain the low C here. Now we have that new D minor coming up, but we also have an open note right before it. Gives us a half a beat to get there. And then we have 2 open strings, and then we have a C chord with the melody on string 2. And that was my 2 versions of Away in a Manger. Have fun with this, and don't forget to check the description to see where you can order the PDF. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with more guitar tips and arrangements.